Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Creative Mornings. It's so good to have you. Thank you, Jam. That was amazing. I'm kind of awake now. First time at Creative Mornings. Raise your hand. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Hi. It's great to have you guys. We do this every month. We move to new locations. We bounce around the city. We bring out different speakers. We talk on different themes, but this is global. It's all around the world. It happens on the final Friday of most months. And we begin our mornings with this manifesto, which describes what we do, why we do it. Everyone is creative. A creative life requires bravery and action, honesty and hard work. We are here to support you, celebrate with you, and encourage you to make the things that you love. We believe in the power of community. We believe in giving a damn. We believe in face-to-face connections and learning from others, in hugs and high fives. We bring together people who are driven by passion and purpose, confident that they will inspire one another and inspire change in neighborhoods and cities around the world. Everyone is welcome. So are you. And we did a lot this month to make this tiny crowd be as small as possible. We wanted to really get intimate, so we were like, let's send out the wrong address. Let's barely advertise this. Let's send late notices, not tell folks who are speaking. We did it all. And now we got just you, the people we wanted, finally curated, perfect set. Thanks for being here, the chosen. Everyone is not welcome on some mornings. Creative Mornings is in 200 cities around the world, 64 countries. And because this happens all the time, 20,000 people per month are doing this thing. If you'd like to see past talks, they're all filmed and photographed and uploaded online. You can go to Creative Mornings and see who's talked here before. We've been doing this for 6 years. A lot of lovely voices. We have the Heinz Endowments and New Sun Rising to thank for this event. Yeah, woohoo. And we have Community Forge as well to thank for hosting us, and I'd like to invite Michael up here. Come on up. Where are we?
Hey, we are at Community Forge, which is the former Johnston Elementary School, which is an elementary school here in Wilkinsburg. It was closed in 2012, and now is a community hub that focuses on equitable economic development, youth empowerment, and neighborhood well-being. This is part of our neighborhood well-being pillar, just bringing communities together, breaking down silos. We have like a youth council as part of our youth empowerment program. You can go out on our playground before you leave and see actual designs that kids in this community spent 12 weeks putting into works and are actually happening right now on our playground. It's under construction right at this moment. And we are looking for tenants and people who like being in community spaces. We have co-working spaces as well as dedicated offices and about 32 entrepreneurs and small businesses and programs that run out of this building. So if you want to join our community or run an event or program here, come hit me up. I'll be kind of floating around and helping out. And my name is Mike. I'm the director here. So thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you all.
Thanks, Mike. Also, another round of applause for J.M. the Poet. We're teamed up with One Hood. Every month we have an artist that we tell them the theme, and they select the artist to perform with us. They begin us and they close us out, and we're super excited that that relationship has been formed. And in particular, to have you this morning with us, J.M., so thank you again. Also, because I mentioned we film and we photograph all of our events, we have our videographer here to thank, Darian Burden. Check it out. We were kind of struggling this week. We had some last-minute changes. We didn't have anyone as of yesterday to film. Put out a call to the universe. The universe is Darian, and he responded. And so here he is, first time at Creative Mornings and already put to work. We appreciate you. If you want to hire him, you can do that at Bird Video and Photography. Also, everything is photographed and made to look beautiful every month with the work of Tara Bennett. You can hire her too. Her handle is Tara Bennett 13. Handle. This is the rest of our team. Anya, who's in Nicaragua. Allah, who's here. Dustin, myself, Christiani, Nick, Maya, Michael, and Laura. The rest of us are all here. We do this voluntarily every month. We put this event on, and we're super excited to have you with us. So thanks, guys. Appreciate you, my fellow teammates. The hashtag for this month event is CMPGH, and also you can use CM Inclusive. Our handle is at Pittsburgh_CM. You can follow us on all the socials. The theme this month is inclusive. It was selected by the chapter in Grand Rapids. So we have them to thank. And here is an illustration made by Libby Vander Boog. I don't know how to pronounce that. Okay. If you were with us last month, we've been doing events. Another way that we've been trying to filter people out is by doing way too many events back to back to back. If you've had the stamina to stick with us, you've had a chance to come to an event, I think, on water. Then we kicked off the Inclusive Innovation Summit last week. We were tired, so we had a sound bath, which was at my house. And then here we are again. But when we were at the Inclusive Innovation Summit last week, or last month, we brought back 5 speakers, people who'd spoken in the past on themes, and we gave each one of them a challenge. We said, through the lens of your previous theme, how might we leverage that theme in our lives to improve or increase or further inclusion? And one by one, we heard short talks by these 5 speakers that culminated in challenges given back to us, those who came out to listen. And these challenges are all very personal challenges. These are not checklist challenges. These are things that speak to personal practices. So we heard from Salim. He kicked us off, and he said, ask someone of a different racial or ethnic background than you are about a personal practice that they believe results in a more inclusive and equitable community, and then listen without interrupting. We heard from Nina Barbuto from Assemble, and she said, look at the world around you. Think about who made the technology you use. Think about their intentions, their names. Now imagine how you'd change it to work better for you, your family, your community, and beyond. We heard from Walter Lewis of the Homewood Children's Village. He said, consider the communities you belong to, where you live, work, and play. How inclusive are those groups? Determine how to make one of these communities more equitable. We heard from one of our teammates, Salah, who's here with us this morning, and she said, think about the voices that surround you, the people that you seek out, the podcasts you listen to, the books you read, the videos you watch, and the music you hear. Can you list 10 voices of people who look, think, or worship differently than you do? Seek out those voices, listen to them, and then look at your shared humanity. And Jasiri closed this out, Jasiri from One Hood. He said, examine the ways your heritage has perpetuated the current injustices and inequalities in your current community, in your community. Come up with clear and practical ideas on how to use your power to create systemic change. So these were put out, and immediately following the event, Next Pittsburgh came running up to me, and they were like, what are you going to do about those? Those are challenges. They're just out in the ether. You said you're going to follow up? And I was like, yeah, we're going to follow up, but not sort of have a show of hands of who completed all 5 of these challenges, because they're not checklists. There is no prize for completing them. These are just opportunities to look within yourself, and hopefully when you heard me read them, you were asking yourself, do I do this? And so it's just a reminder. We're just back here reminding you of things that hopefully were already in your life before we ever had an event dedicated to that, and that they will continue on. Lucky for us, the theme for this month was inclusive, and so it's like redundancy sometimes really helps instill change in our lives, and we've decided to kick off an idea that we've had for such a long time, which is to say, hey folks, you come out you come out all the time. Maybe it's time for you to take the stage, maybe it's time for you to take the mic. So we put out a call a couple of weeks ago for Community Takes the Stage, and we asked that you think about these challenges that have been put forward, and we said, does anybody want a chance to share? We heard from a lot of you, and we're going to hear 3 folks today who we've selected to sort of revisit these ideas around inclusion, but from a very personal point of view. Those are Masha Uzakanen, Aurora Ortiz, and Sierra Young. Give it up before you even hear them. I'm not going to do bios on all these people. Masha is the founder and executive director of Savenzo. Aurora is a community engagement coordinator for All, and Sierra is the Director of Equity and Inclusion with the Ellis School, but they are also so much more than that. They are also friends to Creative Mornings, probably friends of all of us, and we're super delighted to have all three of you here with us this morning to share your thoughts. We have a particularly unique way that we're going to go into this, and Masha is going to lead us through all of that. So at this point, I'm going to just hand over the mic and give it up for Masha.
Use a microphone? Oh, for the recording. Oh, I'm a former educator. Microphones are not my thing. So, good morning. Before I start off, I am just so excited to be here and to see all of your faces. I know some of you. I'd love to meet the rest of you. And what I want you to do right now, I know you've had a little bit of coffee, but you're probably sleepy, is just sort of like close your eyes a little bit or soften your gaze and just check in with yourself before we start. Just check in and check in with your breath. Where's that breath? And just set an intention for yourself. You got up early and you showed up here today. Why? What do you want to get out of this? Set an intention for yourself. All right, come back with me. And what I want you to do now is just look at me. And you don't have to ever share this with anyone, but I want you to think of the 3 words that you think describe me. I'll give you a second. You don't know me. Maybe you do, but what are the 3 words that describe who I am? Just if I were passing by, what would you think about me? You got those? All right. So I want to tell you, because we don't really get a chance to get to know each other a lot in our neighborhoods and our communities, and I get emotional about that because I think there's so much beauty in the fabric in this room and more broadly in Pittsburgh, in our country, in this world. So I'm going to tell you a really vulnerable story of self. I might cry, so you got to forgive me, all right? I might get emotional, but I'm going to go there with you. And what I want you to do, again, is just close your eyes. Some of you are younger than I am. Some of you might be older. And try to just close your eyes and try to go back to the 90s. You remember the 90s? The 90s were good, man. We didn't have cell phones. We used to look at each other in the eyes a bit more. You remember the 90s? And I want you to go back there, and if you can, try to remember what was going on your television screen, all right? Like what was cool, what was in, what were you wearing? I know what I was wearing. It was not a good look. But what was going on in the 90s for you? And then I want to tell you what was going on in the 90s for me. I was not even a teenager yet, and this was my life, this image that you see on the left-hand side. And every day, we had already moved to the United States from Bosnia, because we left because of the war. I had one major task that I was focused on all day long, and that was protecting my little brother from the images that you see on the screen. Because my parents and my family, we moved to the United States because we didn't want to be shot or sniped in Sarajevo, which is the city that I come from. But my little brother was 6 years old, and I didn't want him repeatedly to encounter these really horrific images on our television screen, but my parents were obsessed. I mean, CNN was on 24 hours a day in my house. And so I would go to school, we'd both go to school, and then I'd come back, and I'd just try to distract him, right? You know, the only way a kid can, so I would just say, come on, Izzy, let's go over here. Come on, Izzy, let's play. Come on, Izzy, let's go outside. And I would try to protect him from these images, and I kept all the hurt and the pain and the sadness and the lack of ability to talk about what was going on with my family inside of myself. And I carried that with me, and I thought that was normal. And I never really had the opportunity to express what was going on until one day in 8th grade, Ms. Baltwick said to us, all right, y'all, we've been doing this Holocaust unit, and here's what I need you to do. In the next 2 weeks, I need you to take one of these ceramic tiles, and I need you to paint an image from the Holocaust unit that really struck you. And then I need you to come in front of the class and represent that image and share what that image is all about and why it struck you with the class. And I thought, finally, here is my moment, right? This is my moment. This is my moment. I get to use my voice. So I did, try to picture yourself in 8th grade, right? Things are hard in middle school. I was like, I'm gonna do the best project ever. So I brought 2 ceramic tiles because I knew I needed like a version 1. That's how I roll. And I just like painted and thought about it. And Christiane Amanpour, because CNN was on my house all the time, was my biggest hero. Christiane Amanpour was crazy. She was going into Sarajevo during the siege. She was going and talking to Serbian nationalists, the Chetniks, through the fence as they were holding camps, right? And Muslims in camps. And I thought, that's the scene I'm gonna capture on this tile. And so I did, and I worked really hard on it, the way only a kid can. And I got the colors all right. And I like looked at the image in the newspaper, right? And I got all the lines right. And I was so proud of it. Do you see how proud I am of it, right? And like the day came, and I was like an English language learner, and I had an accent back then, but I stood up in front of the class when it came to be my turn, and I shared my story, right? For the first time, I got to share this story about this genocide that was going on in my country that nobody ever talked to me about. And I stood up proudly, as I am now, chest puffed out when I was done, looking at Ms. Baltwick. And Ms. Baltwick looked at me, and she said, "You didn't follow the assignment. This assignment was about the Holocaust. You didn't follow the directions." And I was just like, and that's humiliating, right, in front of your peers. Here's the thing to keep in mind. Ms. Baltwick's not a bad person. I was a teacher myself, right? Ms. Baltwick was overwhelmed. Ms. Baltwick never received training on how to connect with the young people in her class on a human level. Ms. Baltwick had so much pressure on her to implement a curriculum, right? Ms. Baltwick was getting evaluated based on whether or not we knew the answers to the Holocaust unit at the end of that unit, all those tests that you all took with me, right? Ms. Baltwick didn't have the toolkit that she needed in order to connect with me in that moment. And it was one of the most painful moments of my life, but also the biggest gift of my life. Because today, I run Savenzo. And what we do at Savenzo is we train teachers and principals and administrators to create more caring and inclusive classrooms in schools, and to do that by really figuring out how to create space and time to connect with the young people in their schools, to really see them, to really hear them, because that's what every single human being is calling for when they're part of a community. So thanks for hearing me out. I'm going to bring you back out of the story, out of the 90s. And here's what I want you to do, and I want you to pair up with someone. I want you to think about what surprised you about my story. I want you to think about what the challenge was that I faced. Like, how would you actually describe the challenge? And then what was the outcome of that challenge? I'm going to give you 3 minutes. Find someone you're friends with. It would be even nicer if you found someone you don't know at all, and have a little conversation. So what surprised you? What challenge did I face? What was the outcome? And one last thing I'd add is, how is my story familiar to you? Is there a moment in your life where this story really resonates and sounds familiar? You have 3 minutes. 3 minutes, find someone. Okay. So let's get you all involved, right? Everybody's awake now, I bet. So who wants to share something powerful that came out of their conversation? For example, how is this similar to a story you might have? Do not be afraid. This is our little community. Yes.
So, our stories are very similar. I'm
Me neither. I know, yeah.
I came to the States in the 90s too.
Yeah.
I was a teacher also for 7 years. I think sharing an immigrant story, anytime we're dealing with like Western society, you get me, it's very interesting when the educators here don't take empathy to our stories. Now, I'm Muslim, so growing up Muslim in the 90s was difficult. You know, Desert Storm, Bosnia, Sarajevo, those situations. And I remember being in classrooms talking about my personal experiences, and the teachers be like, yo, this ain't the time, bro. Like now it's not right now. You get me? Like, you know, your struggle is like, now we talking about these books. We talking about.
There's a container that you can talk, within which you can talk.
Absolutely, yeah. And when it makes people feel the slightest bit uncomfortable, the subject changes. You get me? But with yours, we were talking about it. We thought it was very interesting that as an educator, you took the blame off of the teacher, right? Because what we had noticed, like, had this, like, now I'm black and era, had that been my situation, I don't know if I'd have been like, oh, okay, I can separate myself from that. Because being an educator, I've seen where racism plays in systemically into the classroom and how Eurocentric teachings tend to overarchingly oppress the people in the classroom. So when their struggles are brought to the front, it's like, it's not that the teacher's not prepared for it, it's just they don't care. You get me? So like, I thought that was very interesting, that like, that's the language. I'm not saying that wasn't the case, it's just like, we might have had a
Oh
different
no, trust
choice.
me, I wasn't loving on Miss Baldwin for years.
Yeah,
right? There was no love for Miss Baldwin.
Yeah.
But honestly, my thing is, you're right, 85% of the teaching workforce are white women, right?
Yeah.
They're going into our classrooms. I worked in Harlem. I was the only white teacher in my school, right? And they're bringing their own mindsets and mental models, right? And systems of oppression and experiences to that classroom. And if you don't teach them that it's important to see that young person will leave with trauma. And they will carry that bag of trauma with them for the rest of their life, right? So I hear you, but I can't let a Miss Baldwin go anymore. That's why I launched this nonprofit, right? I can't let that go anymore. Can't let it go. All right. Thank you so much. We're so similar, right?
Yeah, we gotta build. Yeah,
we gotta build on that. Anything else? One more, and then we'll have another beautiful speaker come on up here and listen for sort of the same things, the challenge, the outcome, and how it's similar. Anyone else? All right, you ready to? Oh, yes. I'm a former teacher. I saw this. I was like, go.
I also immigrated when I was young from England, so I didn't have as much of an experience as you, though. When I arrived, I remember looking up at my preschool teacher and saying, "Where's the toilet?" And she looked down at me and said, "We don't say toilet here, we say bathroom." And immediately, I still hold this of, I gotta adapt. So now people say, "Well, where are you from?" I was raised in Pittsburgh, but I'm actually from England. "Well, you don't have an accent."
Right.
Well, no, because you better adapt here. You have your own luggage to carry, no pun intended. So I connect with you of like, how do we accept and include? And at that young phase, I appreciate so much that you go in and you've created this beautiful nonprofit that applies these learnings. So thank you.
Thank you, and that raises for me and the immigrant story, right? When you come to America, you better adapt. That's the message they're sending you. And we're talking a lot about whiteness in this country right now. If you're a white-skinned immigrant for Western or Eastern Europe and you come here and you have to render your ethnic, right, and cultural identity invisible just to fit in, essentially you're just adding bricks to the foundation of whiteness, right? Rather than coming in, because we're all escaping something, right? And saying like, no, I want to bond, right, with the people who are experiencing the injustice. I think the whole system's set up so that you have to render those parts of yourself invisible, and then there's that container, and those are the only things we talk about. It's really heartbreaking. And as humans, I think we suffer a lot because we lose the fabric of ourselves, right, in that transition. So now we're going to have another beautiful woman come on up here, please, and tell us your story.
Alrighty, thank you. So my name is Aurora. I am also an immigrant. I'm an immigrant from Mexico. I've been in this country for half my life. I moved here in 2007. And originally, when I first started and I thought about the story that I was going to share a news story because a lot of people in this room I've connected at some point, so some of them already know my story. And I was actually going to tell a story similar of a time in the classroom when something like this happened, when I was so proud and it didn't. But after everything I've heard today, I think I'm going to switch it a little back and talk about what I usually talk about, just because if I talk about that, I'm probably going to cry. I'm probably still going to cry, so bear with me. So, crying is good, yes. I've cried here before. So, I moved here in 2007. I was 11 years old, And I was in that stage where I had finally started to break out of my shell back home and started to make friends. And really started, like, I have a big family. I had so many cousins that I never needed to make friends. But at that point in my life, I was at that point where I was finally expanding my boundaries. And for the 11 years of my life, my father had been in this country. He's been in this country since before he even married my mom. He's been here most of his life, over 30 years. So for the 11 years of my life, I grew up hearing, we'll soon be through with this immigration process, and you'll be here. And like he did, he was here working really hard to bring us here, to bring us to a better life. But when I was born, the process got delayed because all of a sudden a new person needed to be added. And then 3 years and 11 months later, my sister was born. So suddenly it got delayed even longer because another person got added. And I was young, I didn't see that. What I saw was a lie. My father kept saying that I was coming to this country and we were going to be together, but it wasn't happening. So in my mind, I didn't care it was a lie. In my mind, I didn't think it was going to happen. So at 11, I'm finally breaking out, finally making friends, and it happens. My dad the application got processed, and we came to this country. And I was just breaking out of my shell, just making friends, and all of a sudden, I found myself in a country where I could not understand a single word that was coming out of anybody's mouth. So I got put into an ELL classroom. There were 11 of us, and we were 11 out of 23 immigrants in the whole school district. And that was across 2 high schools, 4 middle schools, 3 elementary schools, and a whole bunch of kindergarten classes. And we were 23, 27, I don't remember, something in the 20s. We were 11 out of those people. So my school was very not inclusive. Like, it was the opposite of inclusive. And I couldn't speak English, and I actually learned to speak English in 6 months. I could read it. Thank you. I could read it, I could write it, and I could speak it in 6 months. But if you look at my school record, it says that it took me 2 years to learn English. And the reason for that is that I couldn't speak it. Because for those 6 months, I heard kids that came up to me and they would talk to me, and they couldn't speak. I couldn't understand them. And they would smile and stuff and talk to me. So I was like great, but I can't make this friendship. And then I could speak it, and all of a sudden I realized that there weren't smiles, there were laughs. And there weren't kind words, there were quite the opposite. Except that they didn't know that I could speak the language at that point. So they kept doing it. And at that point, I guess I got used to not talking, that it didn't faze me. And yeah, it did. I would go home and cry. But in front of them, I pretended that I still couldn't understand them. So at that point, I missed that window wanting to make friends. So right now, standing in front of you and speaking to you, it's really hard because I still struggle with social interactions. Psychologically, I missed that opportunity. I missed that window to expand. At the point that I finally could, I didn't want to. Emotionally, the kids were being very nice. Why do I want to make friends with them? And the point where my story turns would be 8th grade, where this new girl, she moved into my school. She was American, she wasn't an immigrant. She just had moved in from our rival school. And at this point, I was still getting bullied. My teachers were still turning a blind eye, because what did they do in my school? You apologize. So you reported somebody for bullying, they would call you and your bully in. They would say you're sorry. They would turn around and be like, sorry. And the principal dismissed it. It was taken care of, nothing. Everything moved on, and then you were fine for 2 days, and then somebody else did something, and then back at the office you go and you say, sorry, and then you move on. And so when my story turns is when I was still getting bullied, and so was this girl. Because she was new, she didn't fit in, she didn't have a clique. She was weird, as they call it, whatever that means. And when she saw me that I was getting bullied, she stood in front of the person that was bullying me. And she didn't say anything to me, she just said something to them, they walked away. And that was that. I never saw this girl again because she actually transferred the next day. And after that, that's when it all turned because I started clubs. I started movements in my high school, in my middle school, and then my high school. I started the first multicultural club where and now it's a festival every year with over 100 people participating, cooking, and we get over 1,000 people. I started the first LGBT club in my high school and almost filed 2 lawsuits against my school when they tried to stand in my way for that. Today, I work for an immigrant inclusion initiative, and it's what I'm doing just to keep advancing that inclusivity. And I guess just like that one moment, it's all it takes. Like, if you take those challenges that we're talking about and that really are inspiring us today, one time, all you have to do is one time, and you change one person's world. And you don't know what that person's gonna change until, you see change starting to happen.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, same thing, because I think this is a conversation, right? Right? Isn't this a conversation? So, same thing. What is a challenge you heard? What is an outcome? And then, and I also want to talk about calls to action, because I think you're really calling that out. Is there any time you've taken an action as a result of an incident like this that you want to share with someone? So, what was your challenge? What was the outcome? And have you ever yourself taken action, created a lawsuit, done something of that sort to address the injustice that you were leading into? 3 minutes. You guys have 3 minutes. Take it away, Fran.
Alrighty. So I held it together for the story, but as soon as I got a hug, it all kind of fell through. So, does anybody want to share kind of what they were talking about just now?
I would like to share too. Yeah. I think that as an immigrant too, those stories, they end up being very similar. And I mean, I think the point that you brought in for the language is always a barrier. I mean, I'm here, if I put together 18 years now, and the first time that I came, I couldn't speak any English or a few words. And it's hard because people, it is not their fault either, but they actually read you the way you are. I mean, if you don't communicate it, most of the times you cannot say what is in your mind. And I remember that time I was very frustrated because I had I was the person in Brazil and had all my jobs, my education, and here I sounded like this person that didn't know anything, couldn't put my ideas there or just connect. And also very afraid, I felt very inferior compared to American people, because like in Brazil also we have that idea that American is the best that you can have. And I was here in the best, and I still felt so bad, So many times I would be like in a situation like this, and I understood most of the time, but I couldn't put my ideas there, and it was so so sad and frustrated at the same time. So I went back and forth to Brazil. I still don't speak this language well, or I supposed to, but the second time when I came, I just decided I'm gonna be out there and show who I am and speak wrong English and make people laugh with the words that I say anyways, because it's kind of funny sometimes. But I understand this and I embrace also the culture and feel like a person like any other one in this room, because we kind of tend to read people the way we want or judge, and there is nothing to be judged or to be read. So you are who you are, with your background, with your mistakes, language, or a social class, education, but you are this person, unique, and in some ways you make so much difference in people's lives with what you have, So I just want to embrace the 2 conversations that we had so far and put myself there, because it is the story of basically any immigrant that comes, and in my case, it had that extra factor that I felt Americans were so much better than me that I probably never going to be there, and was so much better that I erased that, and now I am this person.
You're free.
Live here
Yeah.
with the, say whatever comes to my mind, and I'm over 50 now, I really speaks what comes to my mind. So
Yeah.
I don't know actually.
Yeah! All right, thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much. So we have one more story, and what I really appreciate about your reflection is that we often encounter someone and we think we know their story, right? Based on how they look, based on their accent. And so I might check in with you afterwards to see what you thought about me when this is done. But now I want to bring my friend Sierra up here and hear her story. Come on up. Oh, okay. Props. I love it.
Hi, everyone. Hi. So, yes, I will be using this chair as a prop, but I also have multiple sclerosis, so sometimes my legs are as firm as tree trunks, and sometimes they feel like jello. So there might be a moment where I do stand, but then my legs are just not having it, and I hope that's okay with you all if from time to time I'm in the chair. Thank you. So I love how we started, and now we're going to end full circle. Masha started us in the 90s, and I am going to take it back to the 90s. So I just want you to come with me to Cleveland, Ohio, and I am sitting in my Sunday best. I am in Mark's grocery store, sitting next to a gumball machine, legs crossed ankle to ankle, with these frilly little church socks and these thick tights and this puffy dress. And I'm sitting and I'm content with sitting. And then I hear my Nana shout, "Sierra!" I wait, I don't get up. "Sierra, Marie." I say nothing, I do nothing. "Sierra, Marie, Young." And you know, at that point, I don't need to tell you enough about my culture, but at that point, I know that I'm really going to get into some trouble because she had to pronounce my full name. And she instructs me to get a bag of peas. I reluctantly get up because I don't want to know what's going to happen next if I sit. And I'm frustrated that I have to spend the summer with my Nana. I'm frustrated because it's humid, so muggy. I feel so contorted and uncomfortable in this dress and these pigtails that I had. But we had to prepare Sunday dinner. So I did what I was told, I got the bag, and I followed my Nana through the store. The reason why I ended up in Cleveland was because at the time, I believe I was in 4th grade, there were some moments in my life where I realized difference. My mom, she had gotten sick. She had congestive heart failure. But a couple of years before that, and months before she went to the hospital, she kept going to doctors and saying that something's wrong with me. I don't feel well. I feel dizzy. I'm having trouble breathing. I don't know what's going on. And the doctors would dismiss her. They would say, "Oh, you're fine. Here's some medicine." I was waking up for school one day, and I saw my mother lean over, and I knew that this was serious. And from that moment on, she was in the hospital off and on for my entire life. And in school, that took a huge toll on me. But the teachers didn't see me. They saw defiance. They saw problems. It was always, "Sierra, pay attention. Sierra, why are you crying so much in class? Sierra, stop looking out the window. Focus on your assignment. There was never, Sierra, what's wrong? And at that moment, I felt so small and so afraid of the world. So I decided to stay silent. So there was a moment in my life where I did not speak because I didn't think that it mattered what I said. And my dad was so worried. He didn't know what to do, but he knew that he could send me to the matriarch of the family, and she would figure it out. So I get on the Greyhound, I go to Cleveland, Ohio, and now it's August, and I'm in Mark's, being forced to buy peas that I don't even want to eat. I still hate peas. And finally, this torturous trip is over, and there's an ice cream stand outside of the store. I love ice cream, so I march on over and clickety-clack my little white Sunday shoe pumps, and I'm strolling over there, and I look at the man, and I'm still not talking, and I point to the flavor I want, which was mint chocolate chip. And I'm expecting a transaction to happen. And I'm expecting, okay, he's gonna scoop it up, and he is going to give me what I want. And my Nana said, no, absolutely not. I look at her and I'm like, what? What do you mean? This is gonna happen. So I point to the flavor again. She says no. I point to the flavor again. She says no. And she leans over to me and she says, I want you to promise me one thing. There are people in this world who are gonna say mean things to you. There are people in this world who are gonna say a lot of nonsense. But I need for you to speak for what you want, even when it scares you. Now tell this man what flavor you want. And so I whisper out, I would like the mint chocolate chip, please. He scoops it and he gives it to me. And so that story was very pivotal in my life because there are lots of moments where I'll say things that need to be said to speak truth to power, and not everyone will want to hear it. Or I'm so scared, but I need to say it. If I have something that will make a difference, I need to put it out into the universe. And sometimes it's in spaces where it's really convenient when I'm with like-minded folks like you who want to hear what I have to say. But I also need to do that in spaces where I'm consistently challenged, in spaces where I might not be wanted, in spaces where they've never seen an identity or a lived experience like my own. And I think that that's where the difference and the growth happens. And I say that because sometimes, especially in these times, there are moments where we don't want to work across difference. And we don't want to work that conflict out. But I encourage you all to, instead of flee from challenge, rush to it. Thank you.